Every morning at exactly 6 a.m., people in this quiet neighborhood witnessed the same intriguing scene, puzzled, as this little boy walked his 4 powerful German shepherds through the street every morning. But when the truth came out, it was more shocking than anyone could have imagined. Before we dive into this incredible story, I want to know where you're watching from right now. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you're ready for a story that'll keep you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button. Share this with someone who loves a good mystery, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. Now, let me take you to Harrisville, a place where nothing extraordinary ever happens. Picture this: a quiet, suburban neighborhood where the biggest excitement is usually someone mowing their lawn on a Sunday morning, or a garage sale down the block. White picket fences line the streets, maple trees provide shade over well-maintained sidewalks, and everyone knows everyone, at least by face if not by name. It's 6:30 on a Tuesday morning. The sun is just beginning to paint the sky in soft shades of orange and pink, casting long shadows across the peaceful streets. Most residents are still inside, sipping their first cup of coffee or getting ready for work. The air is crisp, carrying the faint scent of freshly cut grass and morning dew. Birds chirp from the branches above, and somewhere in the distance, a sprinkler system clicks to life. This is Harrisville, predictable, safe, ordinary. But on this particular morning, something catches the attention of Margaret, an elderly woman watering her roses by the front window. She pauses mid-pour, her eyes narrowing as she watches a small figure making its way down Maple Avenue. It's a sight she's seen dozens of times before, yet it never fails to make her wonder. Walking with calm determination is Ethan Sullivan, a 10-year-old boy with sandy brown hair and a quiet demeanor that makes him almost invisible in a crowd. But this morning, like every morning, Ethan is anything but invisible. Flanking him on all sides are 4 massive German shepherds, each one moving with military precision. The dogs are magnificent creatures. Their coats gleam in the morning light, muscles rippling beneath as they walk in perfect synchronization. 2 walk slightly ahead on either side of Ethan, their heads held high and alert. 2 more follow just behind, their eyes scanning the environment with an intensity that seems almost unnatural for pets. Ethan doesn't hold leashes. He doesn't need to. The dogs respond to subtle gestures, a slight tilt of his head, a quiet click of his tongue, movements so small that most people wouldn't even notice them. When Ethan stops at the corner of Maple and Oak, all 4 dogs sit simultaneously, their backs straight, their gazes fixed forward. Not one of them pulls ahead or lags behind. Not one of them gets distracted by a passing cat or a rustling bush. Margaret watches from her window, shaking her head slowly. She's lived in Harrisville for 37 years and has never seen anything quite like it. She's mentioned it to her husband, Gerald, more than once. "That Sullivan boy and those dogs," she'd say. "Something peculiar about the whole thing." Gerald would shrug it off. "The kid's good with animals. What's the harm?" But Margaret isn't convinced. There's something about the way those dogs move, the way they obey without question, that feels less like training and more like something else entirely, something she can't quite put her finger on. Down the street, Thomas, a middle-aged man loading his briefcase into his sedan, pauses to watch Ethan pass by. He's seen the boy and the dogs countless times, always at the same hour, always following the same route. Thomas has 2 golden retrievers of his own, lovable but chaotic creatures who can barely sit still long enough for a treat. Watching Ethan's dogs is like watching a different species altogether. "Morning, Ethan," Thomas calls out, attempting to be friendly. Ethan gives a polite nod but doesn't stop. The dogs don't even glance in Thomas's direction. They continue their march, focused and unwavering. Thomas scratches his head, a small frown creasing his forehead. He's tried to strike up conversations with the boy before, asked him about training techniques, wondered aloud how he manages 4 such powerful animals. But Ethan always gives short, vague answers before moving on. The neighborhood has learned to accept the strange morning ritual. Some find it impressive. Others find it unsettling. But most have simply grown accustomed to it, the way people get used to anything they see often enough. It's just Ethan and his dogs, nothing more, nothing less. But for Officer Natalie Adams, the newest resident of Harrisville, the sight is anything but ordinary. Natalie moved to the neighborhood just 3 weeks ago, seeking a quieter life after years of working in the chaotic environment of the city police department. She'd taken a position at the local precinct, trading high-speed chases and drug busts for noise complaints and the occasional traffic violation. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a chance to slow down and breathe. This particular morning, Natalie is out for her daily jog, trying to familiarize herself with the streets of her new home. She's dressed in athletic gear, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, her sharp eyes taking in every detail of her surroundings. It's a habit from years on the force, the constant observation, the mental cataloging of people and places. As she rounds the corner onto Maple Avenue, she nearly collides with Ethan and his pack. "Whoa, sorry," Natalie says, stepping back instinctively. The 4 German shepherds immediately shift their positions, creating a protective barrier between Ethan and the stranger. Their eyes lock onto Natalie, not with aggression, but with a calculated wariness that sends a chill down her spine. These aren't just well-trained pets. These are dogs with a purpose. "It's okay," Ethan says quietly, and instantly the dogs relax, though they don't break formation. Natalie studies the boy, then the dogs, her training kicking in. She's seen police K-9 units, military working dogs, even private security animals. But this is something different. The coordination is too precise, the discipline too absolute. And the boy, he's just a child. How is this possible? "Those are some impressive dogs you've got there," Natalie says, keeping her tone friendly and non-threatening. "Thank you," Ethan replies simply. "Do you train them yourself?" "We train together," Ethan says, which strikes Natalie as an odd way to phrase it. "I'm Natalie, by the way. Just moved in down on Birch Street." "Welcome to the neighborhood," Ethan says politely, but there's a finality in his tone that suggests the conversation is over. He gives a barely perceptible signal, and the dogs resume their formation. They continue down the street, leaving Natalie standing alone, her curiosity now fully ignited. She watches them disappear around the corner, her mind racing. Something about this doesn't add up. A 10-year-old boy walking 4 powerful German shepherds without leashes, commanding them with gestures so subtle they're almost invisible. Dogs that move like soldiers. Dogs that respond like they're part of a coordinated unit. What kind of training produces results like that? And why would a child need dogs trained to that level? Natalie finishes her jog, but her thoughts keep returning to Ethan and those dogs. Back at her house, she showers and gets ready for her shift, but the image of the boy and his pack lingers in her mind. By the time she arrives at the precinct, she's made a decision. Tomorrow morning, she'll follow them, not as a police officer conducting an investigation, but as a concerned neighbor wanting to understand what she's seeing. There's a story here, she's certain of it. And Natalie Adams has never been one to let a mystery go unsolved. As the sun climbs higher over Harrisville, casting its warm glow over the quiet streets, Ethan completes his route and heads home. The dogs remain in perfect formation until they reach the Sullivan house, a modest 2-story home with a well-kept yard and a tall wooden fence surrounding the backyard. Ethan opens the gate, and the dogs file through one by one, their discipline never wavering. He closes the gate behind them, and for a moment he stands there, looking back at the street as if sensing something. He can feel the attention, the curiosity, the questions people are too polite or too afraid to ask. He's felt it for months now, ever since he started walking the dogs. But what choice does he have? This is his life. This is his responsibility. And soon, very soon, everyone will understand why. Ethan turns and walks toward the house, the 4 German shepherds following close behind. Inside, a truth waits, a truth so extraordinary that it will shake the foundations of this quiet little neighborhood and change everything the residents thought they knew about the boy next door. The next morning arrives with the same golden light filtering through Harrisville's tree-lined streets. But for Natalie Adams, everything feels different. She's positioned herself at the corner of Elm and Maple, partially hidden behind a cluster of hedges, waiting. It's 5 minutes past 6, and she knows from her observations that Ethan should appear any moment now. She feels slightly ridiculous. A police officer hiding in bushes to watch a 10-year-old walk his dogs. But her instincts, honed over years of investigative work, are screaming that something here demands attention. Something important is happening right under everyone's noses, and nobody's bothering to look closely enough. Then she sees them. Ethan emerges from his driveway, and the 4 German shepherds fall into formation around him with mechanical precision. But this time, Natalie isn't just a casual observer who nearly bumped into them. This time, she's watching with the trained eye of a law enforcement professional, and what she sees makes her breath catch in her throat. The dogs aren't just well-behaved, they're operating on an entirely different level. As Ethan begins his walk, Natalie notices the lead dog on the right, a powerful male with a distinctive black saddle marking, continuously scanning the environment in a systematic pattern. His head moves left, then right, then forward, covering zones of observation with the efficiency of a security camera. The dog on the left mirrors this behavior, ensuring no blind spots exist in their collective awareness. The 2 dogs following behind aren't simply trailing along. One keeps its attention locked on Ethan himself, monitoring the boy's every movement, ready to respond to the slightest signal. The other maintains rear security, periodically glancing backward, checking for any approach from behind. This isn't pet behavior, this is tactical movement. Natalie follows at a safe distance, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and concern. She's seen police K-9 units operate before, watched them work crowd control and building searches, but those were trained adults handling single dogs in controlled situations. This is a child commanding 4 animals simultaneously, and they're moving through a civilian neighborhood with the coordination of a special forces team. When Ethan crosses the street, the dogs don't just follow. The front pair stops at the curb, checks both directions, then proceeds only when it's clear. The rear pair maintains position until Ethan and the front dogs are safely across before following. It's a protective formation, a tactical maneuver designed to minimize vulnerability during the crossing. Natalie feels a chill run down her spine despite the warm morning air. At one point, a jogger approaches from the opposite direction, earbuds in, completely oblivious to his surroundings. The moment he comes within 50 feet, all 4 dogs shift subtly. Their posture changes, their focus intensifies, and they create a tighter perimeter around Ethan. They're not aggressive, not threatening, but they're clearly assessing a potential risk and responding accordingly. The jogger passes without incident, completely unaware of the calculated response his presence triggered. As soon as he's gone, the dogs relax marginally and resume their normal formation. Military precision, threat assessment, protective protocols. These aren't skills you teach a family pet. These are specialized capabilities that take months, sometimes years, of intensive training to develop, and these dogs have them down to an art form. Natalie pulls out her phone and starts recording, capturing footage of the extraordinary display. She knows she'll need evidence if she's going to pursue this further, because what she's witnessing is so unusual that people might not believe her description alone. As she follows, a darker thought begins to form in her mind. If these dogs are trained to this level, and if a 10-year-old boy is their handler, what circumstances would create that situation? Is Ethan in danger? Is his family involved in something that requires this level of protection? Could these dogs have been stolen from a military or police program? The questions multiply with each passing minute, and none of the answers her mind supplies are comforting. Ethan's route takes him through the neighborhood park, a small green space with walking paths and a playground. At this early hour, it's deserted except for one elderly man feeding ducks by the pond. The dogs immediately catalog his presence, determine he's not a threat, and continue without breaking stride. But then, something happens that makes Natalie's investigative instincts flare to full alert. A car pulls into the parking lot, its engine rumbling as it comes to a stop about 30 yards from where Ethan is walking. It's an older sedan, unremarkable in every way, and the driver, a woman in her 40s, gets out and begins stretching as if preparing for a morning walk. Normal, completely normal. Except the dogs don't think so. All 4 German shepherds go rigid. Their ears pin forward, their bodies lower slightly into a ready stance, and they position themselves in a diamond formation around Ethan, creating maximum coverage. The boy stops walking, and Natalie watches as he places his hand on the head of the nearest dog, a calming gesture. But the animals don't fully relax. The woman finishes her stretches, locks her car, and walks off in the opposite direction, heading toward the pond. Only when she's a significant distance away do the dogs ease their heightened alert status and allow Ethan to continue. What just happened? Natalie tries to process what she witnessed. The woman appeared completely harmless, yet the dogs reacted as if they'd detected a genuine threat. Are they overly protective? Or did they sense something Natalie missed? She makes a mental note to check if that vehicle is registered in the area, though she knows she's getting ahead of herself. She has no jurisdiction here, no case, no reason to run license plates on random citizens, but her curiosity has evolved into something more substantial now, something closer to legitimate concern. Do you think Ethan knows he's being followed? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if this story is keeping you hooked, make sure you're subscribed, because what Natalie discovers next will change everything she thought she knew about this quiet neighborhood. By the time Ethan completes his route and returns home, Natalie has filled her phone with video footage and her mind with questions that demand answers. She heads back to her house, immediately opens her laptop, and begins doing what she does best: investigating. Her first search is straightforward: retired police dogs. She discovers that K9 units, after years of service, are typically retired when they reach a certain age, or if they sustain injuries that prevent them from continuing active duty. Most are adopted by their handlers, the officers who worked with them throughout their careers. It's considered a best practice, maintaining the bond that was forged through years of partnership. But what happens when a handler dies? Natalie refines her search. K9 handler deceased, retired service dogs, police K9 adoption procedures. The results are varied, but one thing becomes clear. Retired service dogs with specialized training don't just get adopted out to random families. They're valuable assets, and there are protocols in place for their care and placement. She leans back in her chair, thinking. 4 dogs, all German Shepherds, all displaying elite-level training, all in the care of a 10-year-old boy in a suburban neighborhood. Something happened. Something that placed these animals in Ethan's life. Natalie navigates to the Harrisville Community Forum, a local online bulletin board where residents post everything from garage sale announcements to concerns about neighborhood issues. She searches for mentions of Ethan Sullivan or the dogs and finds scattered references, mostly curious observations from other residents wondering about the unusual sight. But then she finds something else. A post from 8 months ago, a memorial thread. Our hearts go out to the Sullivan family during this difficult time. Officer Sarah Sullivan gave her life in service to our community, and she will never be forgotten. She was a hero, a dedicated K-9 officer, and a beloved member of Harrisville. Please keep her son Ethan and her family in your thoughts. Natalie's hands freeze over the keyboard. K-9 officer. The pieces start falling into place with devastating clarity. She opens a new search window and types Officer Sarah Sullivan, K-9 unit. The results populate immediately, and Natalie finds herself staring at a news article from 8 months prior. Local K-9 officer killed in line of duty. Officer Sarah Sullivan, a decorated member of the county's K-9 unit, was fatally shot during a raid on a suspected drug operation. Her K-9 partner, Rex, sustained injuries but survived. Officer Sullivan is survived by her 10-year-old son, Ethan, and her mother, Patricia Sullivan. She was 34 years old. Natalie reads the article 3 times, absorbing every detail. Sarah Sullivan had been part of an elite K-9 unit for 7 years. She'd worked with multiple dogs throughout her career, all German Shepherds, all trained for high-risk operations, including narcotics detection, suspect apprehension, and tactical support. She clicks through related articles, finding images of Officer Sullivan in uniform, standing proudly beside her K-9 partners. And in one photo, a candid shot from a community event, Sarah is smiling, while a young boy, unmistakably Ethan, kneels beside a German Shepherd, his small hand resting on the dog's back. The caption reads, Officer Sullivan and her son Ethan at the annual Police K-9 Demonstration Day. Natalie sits back, her mind reeling. Those aren't just any retired K-9s. Those are Sarah Sullivan's former partners, the dogs she trained with, worked with, trusted with her life. And now they're with her son. But why? And how did a 10-year-old boy inherit the responsibility of caring for 4 highly trained service dogs? More importantly, how is he managing it? The level of control and coordination she witnessed this morning isn't something that happens accidentally. Someone trained Ethan. Someone taught him how to handle these animals. Questions spiral through her mind faster than she can organize them. Were the dogs officially retired to the family? Did the department approve this arrangement? Is Ethan's grandmother involved in their care? And, most pressingly, is a child equipped to handle the responsibility and potential danger of managing 4 animals trained for police work? Natalie closes her laptop and stares out the window. The morning sun has climbed higher, and Harrisville continues its peaceful routine, unaware of the extraordinary story unfolding in its midst. She thinks about Ethan, about the quiet, serious boy walking his mother's legacy through the neighborhood every morning. She thinks about the weight of that responsibility, the grief he must carry, the connection he maintains with those dogs as a living link to the mother he lost. Her perspective has shifted completely. What she initially viewed as an oddity, then a potential concern, has revealed itself to be something far more profound. This isn't a mystery to be solved. This is a story of love, loss, and an unbreakable bond between a boy and the animals that once protected his mother. But Natalie's not done investigating. Not yet. Because while her heart now understands the emotional core of what she's witnessed, her professional training tells her there's more to uncover. Those dogs recognized a potential threat in the park this morning. They're not just well-trained, they're active, alert, and protective. What are they protecting Ethan from? And does the boy know something that the rest of Harrisville doesn't? Tomorrow morning, Natalie decides she'll do more than observe. Tomorrow, she'll knock on the Sullivan family's door and ask the questions that need asking, because something tells her that the shocking truth she's begun to uncover is just the beginning of a much larger story. Natalie stands on the front porch of the Sullivan house, her hand raised to knock, her heart beating faster than she'd like to admit. It's late afternoon now, the sun casting long shadows across the quiet street. She's changed out of her uniform, wearing civilian clothes because this visit isn't official. It's personal, driven by concern and curiosity in equal measure. She knocks 3 times, firm but not aggressive. The door opens, and Natalie finds herself face to face with an older woman, late 60s, with silver hair pulled back in a neat bun and eyes that carry the weight of profound loss. This must be Patricia Sullivan, Ethan's grandmother. "Can I help you?" Patricia asks, her voice cautious but polite. "Mrs. Sullivan, my name is Natalie Adams. I recently moved into the neighborhood, and I wanted to speak with you about Ethan, if you have a moment." Patricia's expression shifts, a mixture of wariness and resignation crossing her features. "Is there a problem?" "No, nothing like that," Natalie assures her quickly. I'm impressed by what I've seen, and I'd like to understand more about the situation." Patricia studies her for a long moment, then steps aside. "Come in." The interior of the Sullivan home is modest but warm, decorated with family photos that line the hallway walls. Natalie catches glimpses of Sarah Sullivan in her uniform, smiling beside various German shepherds, and numerous pictures of Ethan at different ages, always with dogs nearby. "Ethan," Patricia calls out, "we have a visitor." Footsteps sound from somewhere deeper in the house, and then Ethan appears, still in his school clothes. His eyes widen slightly when he recognizes Natalie from their brief encounter on the street, but his expression remains carefully neutral. "This is Miss Adams," Patricia says. "She'd like to talk with you about the dogs." Ethan exchanges a glance with his grandmother, something unspoken passing between them, before nodding slowly. "Okay." They settle in the living room, Natalie on the couch, Ethan in an armchair, and Patricia standing near the doorway as if ready to intervene if necessary. "Ethan," Natalie begins gently, "I want you to know I'm not here to cause any trouble, but I've noticed you walking your dogs, and I have to say, what you're doing with them is extraordinary. Those aren't ordinary pets, are they?" Ethan looks down at his hands, silent for a moment. When he speaks, his voice is quiet but steady. "No, they're not. I did some research," Natalie continues. "I learned about your mother. I'm so sorry for your loss. She was clearly an incredible officer." Something flickers in Ethan's eyes, pain mixed with pride. She was the best. Patricia moves into the room now, sitting beside her grandson, her hand finding his shoulder in a gesture of support. "The dogs," Natalie says carefully, "they're your mother's former canine partners, aren't they?" Ethan nods. "Rex, Atlas, Shadow, and Thor. Mom worked with all of them at different times. When she died, they were going to be split up, sent to different facilities or adopted out separately. I couldn't let that happen. His voice cracks slightly on the last sentence, and Natalie feels her throat tighten. So you took them all, she says softly. The department didn't think it was a good idea, Patricia interjects, her voice carrying a hint of old frustration. They said it was too much responsibility for a child, that the dogs needed specialized care. But Ethan insisted, and Sarah had made provisions in her will. She wanted Ethan to have them if anything happened to her. Ethan looks up, meeting Natalie's gaze directly. They're all I have left of her. Every time I walk them, every time I work with them, I feel like she's still here. They remember her. Sometimes I catch them looking at the door like they're waiting for her to come home. The raw honesty in his words hits Natalie like a physical force. This isn't just about a boy and some dogs. This is about grief, about legacy, about a child trying to hold on to the pieces of a parent who's gone forever. Can I show you something? Ethan asks suddenly. I want you to understand. Natalie nods, and Ethan stands, gesturing for her to follow. They move through the house to a door that leads to the basement. As they descend the stairs, Natalie hears the soft sounds of movement below, the click of nails on concrete, the gentle panting of dogs at rest. The basement has been transformed. What was likely once a typical storage space is now something entirely different, a sanctuary designed with obvious care and knowledge. The floor is covered with industrial rubber matting, easy to clean and comfortable for the dogs. Along one wall are 4 large elevated beds, each one occupied by a massive German Shepherd. Along another wall is an organized array of equipment: harnesses, training aids, first aid supplies, and what Natalie recognizes as professional canine gear. The dogs lift their heads as Ethan enters, and Natalie watches as their entire demeanor changes. Tails wag, ears perk forward, and a palpable energy of joy fills the space. These fierce, disciplined animals she saw operating with military precision on the street transform into something gentler, their love for the boy evident in every movement. This is their space, Ethan explains, moving among the dogs with easy confidence. I keep them down here most of the time because people don't understand. They see big dogs and they get scared, or they think I can't handle them, or they want to take them away. He kneels beside Rex, the dog with the black saddle marking, and the animal leans into him, a low rumble of contentment emanating from its chest. Mom trained me, Ethan continues. From the time I was really little, she taught me how to work with them. She said understanding dogs wasn't just about commands, it was about respect, about communication, about building trust. She wanted me to know how to handle them in case something ever happened to her. Patricia has followed them down, and she speaks up now. Sarah had a premonition, I think. The work she did was dangerous, and she wanted to make sure Ethan would be okay. She never imagined he'd end up caring for all 4 of them, but she gave him the tools to do it. Natalie watches as Ethan moves to each dog, checking them over with practiced efficiency. He examines their paws, their ears, runs his hands along their bodies, feeling for any signs of injury or discomfort. This isn't a child playing with pets. This is a trained handler performing a routine health check. They're not just companions, Ethan says quietly. They're my family, and I'm their purpose. Without work, without a mission, dogs like these, they struggle. Mom always said a working dog needs a job, needs to feel useful, so I give them that. Every morning, they protect me on our walk. They have a mission. They have meaning. Have you ever had to take care of something important that someone you loved left behind? Share your story in the comments. And if you're invested in Ethan's journey, hit that subscribe button because what happens next will show you just how deep this bond really goes. Natalie feels tears pricking at her eyes. The sophistication of what she's witnessing, the emotional complexity of this arrangement, it's overwhelming. This child has taken on a responsibility that would challenge most adults. And he's doing it not just competently, but excellently, all in service of honoring his mother's memory. The morning I saw you, Natalie says, in the park, there was a woman who got out of her car, and the dogs reacted. They went into a protective stance. Why? Ethan's expression grows serious. The dogs are trained to recognize threats. Sometimes they pick up on things people miss. Body language, intention, even scent can tell them something's wrong. Has something been wrong? Natalie asks. Are you in danger, Ethan? The boy exchanges another glance with his grandmother before answering. After Mom died, there were complications. The people involved in the raid, the ones who killed her, some of them got away. There was concern that they might retaliate against her family. Natalie's blood runs cold. What kind of concern? Patricia steps in, her voice steady but grave. The department provided protection for a few weeks, but eventually they said the threat had passed, that the remaining suspects had likely left the area. But we never felt entirely safe. And the dogs, they've been on alert ever since Sarah died. They know something's not right. That's why we stay quiet, Ethan adds. That's why I don't talk about them, why we keep them hidden down here. If the wrong people knew that Mom's K9S were still together, still operational, it might draw attention we don't want. Natalie processes this information, her professional instincts warring with her emotional response. The department dismissed the threat, but these dogs, trained to detect danger, are still acting like there's something to protect against. And this child, this brave, remarkable child, has taken on not just the care of these animals, but the weight of potentially real danger, all to preserve his mother's legacy. You've been doing this alone, Natalie says. For 8 months, you've been managing all of this by yourself. I have Grandma, Ethan says, gesturing to Patricia. But yeah, mostly it's just me. Mom taught me everything I needed to know. How to feed them, how to train them, how to keep them healthy and sharp. She said these dogs saved her life more times than she could count, and that they deserved to be honored and cared for when their service was done. He moves to Shadow, a slightly older dog with gray beginning to show around her muzzle, and wraps his arms around her neck. The dog closes her eyes, leaning into the embrace. Sometimes when I'm with them, Ethan says, his voice barely above a whisper. I can hear Mom's voice. I remember things she taught me, ways she moved with them, commands she used. It's like she's still teaching me, still guiding me through this. Natalie has to look away, blinking back tears. The maturity in this child, the depth of his grief channeled into such purposeful action, it's both heartbreaking and inspiring. The morning walks, Natalie says. That's not just exercise, is it? It's training, Ethan confirms. It keeps them sharp, keeps their skills active. Mom used to say that a dog's training is like a muscle. If you don't use it, it atrophies. So, every morning, we practice. Formations, threat assessment, protective maneuvers. I do it the way Mom did it, Patricia adds. The school has been understanding. Ethan maintains good grades, and the morning routine has actually helped him cope with the loss. Having structure, having purpose, it's been therapeutic in a way. Natalie stands there, surrounded by these magnificent animals and this extraordinary child, and realizes that everything she thought she understood about this situation was just the surface. The depth of Ethan's commitment, the sophistication of his knowledge, the emotional weight he carries every single day. It's staggering. Ethan, Natalie says finally, what you're doing here, it's remarkable. But I need to ask, Do you ever feel overwhelmed? Do you ever wish you could just be a regular kid without all this responsibility? Ethan considers the question seriously. Sometimes, he admits, sometimes I see other kids playing, not worrying about anything, and I wonder what that would be like. But then I look at them. He gestures to the 4 dogs, watching him with adoring eyes, and I know I wouldn't trade this for anything. They need me, and I need them. He pauses, then adds quietly, After Mom died, I didn't know how to keep going. Everything felt empty. But these dogs, they gave me a reason to get up every morning. They gave me a way to still be connected to her. Taking care of them, it's how I take care of her memory. It's how I make sure she's not forgotten. The silence that follows is heavy with emotion. Natalie finds herself blinking rapidly, trying to maintain her composure. Patricia has tears streaming down her face, though she makes no move to wipe them away. Thor, the largest of the 4 dogs, rises from his bed and pads over to Ethan, pressing his massive head against the boy's side. One by one, the other dogs follow suit, surrounding Ethan in a circle of warmth and protection. It's a scene of such pure love and loyalty that Natalie feels her heart might break from the beauty of it. They've saved me, Ethan says, his voice thick with emotion. Not just physically, but in every way that matters. When the nightmares come, when I can't stop thinking about the fact that Mom's never coming home, they're there. They understand grief in a way people don't. They lost her too. Natalie moves closer, kneeling down to be at eye level with Ethan. You're not alone in this, she says firmly. Not anymore. I don't know exactly how yet, but I'm going to help you. Whatever you need, whatever support you require to keep doing this incredible thing you're doing, I'm here. Ethan looks at her with eyes far too old for his 10 years, eyes that have seen loss and stepped up to meet impossible challenges. Thank you, he whispers, as they ascend the basement stairs, leaving the dogs to their sanctuary. Natalie's mind is already working through possibilities. There are resources she can access, connections she can leverage, ways she might be able to provide additional security or support for this family. But more than that, she knows now that her initial instincts were correct. There is a story here, a profound and powerful story about love transcending death, about responsibility embraced rather than fled from, about the unbreakable bonds between humans and the animals who serve beside them. And something tells Natalie that the most important chapters of this story are still waiting to be written. Natalie arrives at the precinct the next morning with a sense of purpose tempered by unease. She's barely slept, her mind replaying everything she learned at the Sullivan house. The image of Ethan surrounded by those 4 loyal dogs, the weight of responsibility on such young shoulders, it haunts her in the best and worst ways possible. She settles at her desk with coffee and opens her computer, intending to do some discreet research into K-9 retirement protocols. But before she can begin, her supervisor, Captain William Briggs, appears at her cubicle entrance, his expression unreadable. Adams, got a minute? Natalie follows him into his office, a knot forming in her stomach. Briggs is a decent man, fair but by the book, which doesn't always work in favor of situations that exist in gray areas. I'll get straight to it, Briggs says, settling behind his desk. I got a call this morning from County K-9 Command. They're ramping up efforts to locate 4 missing retired service dogs. Apparently, they've been unaccounted for since Officer Sarah Sullivan's death 8 months ago. Natalie's blood runs cold, but she keeps her expression neutral. Missing? More like relocated without proper authorization, Briggs clarifies. According to their records, the dogs were supposed to be transferred to a specialized retirement facility or reassigned to new handlers. but they never arrived at their designated locations. The department's been conducting a quiet search. Didn't want to alarm the community or suggest incompetence, but they're running out of patience. He slides a folder across the desk. Natalie opens it to find photographs of 4 German shepherds: Rex, Atlas, Shadow, and Thor. Her heart sinks. Command believes the dogs might still be in the area. Briggs continues. They're valuable animals with specialized training. There's concern they could be dangerous in the wrong hands or that they might have been taken by someone with criminal intent. They're planning to expand the search, potentially go public with it. Natalie closes the folder carefully, buying herself time to think. What would happen if the dogs were found? They'd be evaluated, Briggs says. If they're still in good condition and their training is intact, they'd likely be reassigned. If they've deteriorated or become unreliable, they'd be retired to a facility. Why do you ask? Just curious, Natalie says, her mind racing. It seems like a lot of resources for retired dogs. These aren't ordinary retired dogs, Briggs explains. They're former tactical K9s with specialized training worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Plus, there's liability concerns. If something happened, if one of them injured someone while unaccounted for, the department would be exposed legally. Natalie nods, her stomach churning. She thanks Briggs and returns to her desk, the folder feeling like it weighs 1,000 pounds. She knows exactly where those dogs are. She knows they're not in the wrong hands, that they're thriving under the care of someone who loves them deeply. But she also knows that what Ethan has done, keeping them hidden, refusing to turn them over, it's technically illegal. The dilemma crystallizes in her mind with painful clarity. Does she protect Ethan and potentially lose her job, damage her career, and obstruct an official investigation? Or does she follow protocol and destroy the only family a grieving child has left? She pulls out her phone and texts Patricia Sullivan. We need to talk, today. It's urgent. 3 hours later, Natalie sits in the Sullivan living room again, this time with both Patricia and Ethan present. The atmosphere is tense, the weight of what she's about to share hanging over them all. The department is looking for the dogs, Natalie says without preamble. K9 Command has been conducting a quiet search for months, and they're about to escalate. They want the dogs back. Patricia's face goes pale. Ethan sits frozen, his hands gripping the armrests of his chair. What does that mean? The boy asks, his voice barely steady. It means, Natalie says gently, that what you've been doing, keeping them here, without authorization, it's not legal. The dogs are still considered department property until they're officially retired through the proper channels. You can't just take them, even if your mother wanted you to have them. But Mom's will, Patricia protests. It's specified that Ethan should inherit her K9 partners. A will doesn't override department regulations, Natalie explains. K9s aren't considered personal property in the same way a pet would be. They're working animals with specialized training, and there are protocols for their retirement and placement. Ethan stands abruptly, his face flushed with emotion. They're going to take them away. They're going to split them up, just like I was afraid of. I won't let that happen. I can't. Ethan, Natalie says firmly but kindly, I understand what you're feeling, but we need to think strategically here. Running or hiding isn't going to work anymore. The search is expanding, and it's only a matter of time before someone connects the dots. So what do we do? Patricia asks, her voice trembling. Just hand them over? Let them take the last piece of Sarah that we have? Natalie leans forward, her expression intense. No. We fight, but we do it the right way. We go through official channels. We make a case for why the dogs should stay with Ethan, and we get the community and media involved if we have to. But first, I need to know the complete truth. All of it. Ethan looks at his grandmother, who nods slowly. The boy takes a deep breath and begins. When Mom died, the department came to talk to us about the dogs. They said the K9S would be taken care of, that they'd find good homes for them. But I heard them talking when they thought I wasn't listening. They said Rex was too old to be reassigned and would probably be euthanized. They said Atlas had aggression issues and might need to be put down too. Shadow and Thor, they might get new handlers, but there were no guarantees. His voice breaks, but he pushes on. I couldn't let that happen. These dogs gave everything for Mom, for the department, for people they'd never even meet, and their reward was going to be death or abandonment? No, I wouldn't accept that. So you took them, Natalie says. Grandma and I, Ethan corrects. The night before they were supposed to come collect the dogs, we loaded them into our van and brought them here. We set up the basement, got all the supplies we needed. I knew I could take care of them. Mom had trained me for years. I knew their commands, their routines, their needs. I was ready. Patricia adds, we told the department representatives that the dogs had gotten loose during the chaos after Sarah's death, that we were searching for them but had no leads. They bought it initially, probably because they were overwhelmed with everything else. But clearly, they never stopped looking. For 8 months, Natalie says, you've been caring for 4 highly trained K9S in secret, maintaining their skills, keeping them healthy, all while hiding them from the authorities. I had to, Ethan says simply. They're family. If you were in Ethan's position, what would you have done? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed, because the next part of this story will determine the fate of these incredible dogs and the boy who loves them. Natalie stands and paces the room, her mind working through possibilities. Okay, here's what we're dealing with. The department wants the dogs back. They believe the animals are missing or stolen. If they find out you've had them all along, there could be legal consequences. But there might be a way to make this right. How? Patricia asks desperately. We need to demonstrate that the dogs are not only safe, but thriving under Ethan's care. We need to show that splitting them up would be cruel and unnecessary, and that Ethan has the skills and support system to continue managing them. We need witnesses, documentation, and we need to move fast before the department makes this official in public. She pulls out her phone and starts making notes. I need you to compile everything. Medical records showing the dogs are healthy. Evidence of Ethan's training and capabilities. Letters from neighbors attesting to the dog's behavior and Ethan's responsibility. Anything and everything that proves this arrangement is working. Will that be enough? Ethan asks, hope flickering in his eyes. I don't know, Natalie admits honestly, but it's our best shot. I'm going to reach out to some contacts, people who understand K9 work and might be sympathetic to your situation. And I'm going to see if I can buy us some time with the department. You'd do that for us? Patricia asks, tears forming. Risk your position? Natalie meets her gaze steadily. Your grandson is doing something extraordinary. He's honoring his mother's legacy, caring for animals that most people couldn't handle, and he's doing it with more maturity and dedication than officers I've worked with for years. Yes, I'll risk my position for that. Some things are more important than protocol. Over the next 3 days, Natalie works tirelessly. She documents everything about Ethan's routine with the dogs, takes videos of their morning walks showing their discipline and control, and compiles statements from the veterinarian who's been quietly treating them. She reaches out to retired K9 handlers she knows from her time in the city, getting their professional opinions on Ethan's capabilities. But on the fourth day, everything accelerates in the worst possible way. Natalie receives an email from Captain Briggs with an attachment. An official notice that K-9 Command will be conducting door-to-door searches in Harrisville within 72 hours, looking for the missing dogs. They have descriptions, photographs, and legal authorization to seize the animals if found. Natalie immediately drives to the Sullivan house, finding Ethan and Patricia in the kitchen. She shows them the notice and watches as the color drains from both their faces. 3 days, Patricia whispers. What do? We go public, Natalie says decisively. Right now, the department controls the narrative. They're the ones looking for stolen property. We need to flip that script. We need to tell Ethan's story, show the community what's really happening, and put pressure on the department to do the right thing. But if we do that, Ethan says, his voice small, everyone will know. The people Mom arrested, the ones who killed her, they'll know where the dogs are. The room falls silent as the full weight of that reality settles over them. In trying to save the dogs from the department, they might be exposing them, and Ethan, to something far more dangerous. Natalie feels the walls closing in. Every option seems to lead to disaster. Stay hidden and lose the dogs when the search inevitably finds them. Go public and potentially draw the attention of dangerous people. Try to run and become fugitives, destroying Ethan's life in the process. There has to be another way, she says, though she's not sure she believes it. That night, Natalie sits in her apartment, surrounded by all the documentation she's compiled, feeling the weight of impossible choices. She thinks about Ethan, about his courage and his love for those dogs. She thinks about Sarah Sullivan, an officer who gave her life in service, whose final wish was for her son to be cared for, to have family, to not be alone. And she thinks about Rex, Atlas, Shadow, and Thor, 4 dogs who served with honor and distinction, who deserve better than to be treated as inventory to be redistributed or disposed of. As dawn approaches, Natalie makes her decision. She picks up her phone and composes an email, one that will either save everything or destroy it all. An email to Captain Briggs requesting an emergency meeting with K-9 Command, with a proposal that might just change everything. She hits send before she can second-guess herself, then closes her laptop and heads to the Sullivan house. Whatever happens next, Ethan and his family won't face it alone. She's committed now, fully and completely, to seeing this through to whatever end awaits. The sun rises over Harrisville, painting the quiet streets in golden light, and somewhere in a basement sanctuary, 4 German shepherds sleep peacefully, unaware that their fate, and the fate of the boy who loves them, hangs in the balance of decisions being made in offices and meeting rooms across the county. The conference room at County K-9 Command Headquarters feels suffocating despite its size. Natalie sits beside Ethan and Patricia, facing a panel of 5 officials. Captain Briggs, 2 representatives from K-9 Command, a department attorney, and Commander Douglas Pierce, the head of the entire K-9 division. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows, and the air is thick with tension. Commander Pierce, a stern man in his late 50s with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes, opens a folder and looks directly at Ethan. "Young man, do you understand the seriousness of what you've done? These animals are department property, valued at over $200,000 in training costs alone. You've been harboring them illegally for 8 months. Ethan sits up straight, his voice steady despite the fear Natalie can see in his eyes. Sir, with respect, they're not property. They're living beings who served alongside my mother, and I haven't been harboring them. I've been honoring them. One of the K-9 Command representatives, a woman named Director Sarah Blackwell, leans forward. Son, we understand you've experienced a tremendous loss, but these dogs require specialized care and handling. They're not pets, they're trained tactical animals with specific needs. I know exactly what they are, Ethan replies, his voice gaining strength. My mother trained me from the time I was 6 years old. I know their commands, their protocols, their medical needs, their behavioral patterns. I know that Rex has arthritis in his left hip that flares up in cold weather. I know that Atlas has anxiety during thunderstorms because of an incident during a raid 3 years ago. I know that Shadow needs her food elevated because she has digestive issues, and Thor has a scar on his right shoulder from protecting my mother during an arrest. The room falls silent. Even Commander Pierce looks momentarily taken aback by the depth of Ethan's knowledge. Natalie seizes the moment. If I may, I've compiled comprehensive documentation over the past week. She slides folders across the table to each official. Medical records from Dr. Robert Finch, a licensed veterinarian who specializes in working dogs. As you'll see, all 4 animals are in excellent health, their weight is optimal, and their vaccinations are current. There are also behavioral assessments and video documentation showing their discipline and training retention. She opens her laptop and plays footage of Ethan's morning walks, the dogs moving in perfect formation, responding to subtle commands, demonstrating tactical awareness that makes even the hardened officials lean forward with interest. These dogs haven't deteriorated, Natalie continues. They've thrived because they have purpose, structure, and someone who loves them, treating them with the dignity they deserve. The department attorney, a thin man with glasses, speaks up. This is all very impressive, but it doesn't change the fact that proper protocols weren't followed. The dogs should have been processed through official channels. Patricia finally speaks, her voice trembling but determined. My daughter left explicit instructions in her will that Ethan should inherit her K-9 partners. We were told they would be evaluated and potentially euthanized or separated. What would you have done if you were told your family member's legacy, beings they loved and trusted with their life, were going to be destroyed or abandoned? We don't euthanize retired K-9s without cause, Director Blackwell says, though her tone is defensive. Rex was deemed too old, Ethan counters. Atlas was labeled aggressive. Those were the exact words I heard from the officers who came to our house. Tell me those aren't code words for euthanasia. Commander Pierce closes his folder and removes his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Let's cut through the politics here. The reality is we have 4 highly trained K-9s that went missing on our watch. That's a department embarrassment and a liability issue. Our concern isn't malicious, it's practical. These animals represent significant investment and potential risk. Then evaluate them, Natalie says firmly. Right now, bring in your best K-9 handlers, test the dogs, assess Ethan's capabilities. If he can demonstrate that he has the knowledge and ability to maintain these animals safely and effectively, what legitimate reason is there to remove them? The officials exchange glances. It's Director Blackwell who responds. And if he can't? If the dogs have become unreliable, or if we determine the situation is unsafe? Natalie feels Ethan tense beside her, but she keeps her voice steady. Then we'll discuss alternatives. But give him the chance to prove what I already know, that he's doing this right. Commander Pierce looks at his colleagues, then back at the trio before him. Fine. Tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., we'll conduct a full evaluation. Bring all 4 dogs. We'll test their obedience, their stability, and young Mr. Sullivan's handling capabilities. But understand this, if there's any indication that these animals are unsafe or improperly maintained, They will be removed immediately. No negotiations, no appeals. Ethan nods, his jaw set with determination. I understand, sir. As they leave the building, Patricia wraps her arm around her grandson. Are you ready for this? I've been ready my whole life, Ethan says quietly. Mom made sure of that. That evening, in the basement sanctuary, Ethan sits surrounded by the 4 German shepherds. Natalie has stayed to observe, wanting to understand the full depth of the bond she's fighting to protect. What she witnesses over the next 2 hours is nothing short of extraordinary. Ethan runs through every command, every protocol, every tactical maneuver his mother taught him. The dogs respond with precision that would impress any professional handler. But more than that, Natalie sees the communication flowing between the boy and the animals, a language built on trust, respect, and profound mutual understanding. Tomorrow, Ethan says softly to the dogs, we have to show them what we are, what Mom made us, not just me and you separately, but us together. A team. He sits on the floor, and one by one, the dogs come to him. Rex first, the eldest, placing his graying muzzle on Ethan's shoulder. Atlas next, the one deemed too aggressive, lying down with his head in Ethan's lap, Shadow curling up beside him. And finally Thor, the youngest and strongest, positioning himself protectively at Ethan's back. You saved me, Ethan whispers, his voice breaking. After Mom died, I didn't know how to keep going. Everything hurt so much, and I was so angry and so scared. But you were there. You were always there. Tears stream down his face now, and Natalie feels her own eyes welling up. People think I'm taking care of you, Ethan continues, but it's the other way around. You take care of me. Every single day, you give me a reason to get up, a purpose, something that matters. You're not just Mom's legacy, you're my family. You're the proof that love doesn't end just because someone dies. It continues. It transforms. It becomes something new but just as real. He looks at each dog in turn. Rex, you taught me patience. Atlas, you taught me that strength and gentleness can exist in the same heart. Shadow, you showed me that even the quietest presence can be the most comforting. And Thor, you reminded me that protecting the people you love is the highest calling there is. Do you believe love and loyalty can transcend words? That connection goes deeper than what we can see? Drop a heart in the comments if this story has moved you, and subscribe if you want to see how tomorrow's evaluation changes everything. The dogs press closer to him, responding to his emotion with their own, whining softly, licking his face, surrounding him with warmth and unconditional acceptance. Natalie has to turn away, overwhelmed by the rawness of the moment. This isn't a child with pets. This isn't even a handler with working dogs. This is something more profound. A family bound not by blood but by shared loss, shared purpose, and love so pure it transcends species. The next morning arrives cold and gray, matching the anxiety that grips everyone as they arrive at the K-9 training facility. Commander Pierce is there with his evaluation team, 3 veteran K-9 handlers, a K-9 behavioral specialist, and a veterinarian. They've set up an obstacle course and various testing scenarios. Ethan unloads the dogs from Patricia's van, and immediately the officials take notice. The animals are calm, alert, and perfectly responsive. Their coats gleam with health, their eyes are bright, and their movements are confident. We'll start with basic obedience, Commander Pierce announces, then move to advanced commands and tactical scenarios. For the next 3 hours, Ethan demonstrates everything: sit, stay, heel, down, the basics executed flawlessly. Then more complex commands, search patterns, protective positioning, threat assessment, building clearing protocols. Each dog performs magnificently, and Ethan's control is absolute, yet gentle, firm, yet loving. The handlers exchange impressed glances. The behavioral specialist makes notes, nodding repeatedly. Even Commander Pierce's stern expression begins to soften. The final test is the most challenging. A simulated threat scenario where Ethan must navigate through a mock environment with all 4 dogs, responding to multiple simultaneous challenges. It's a test designed for experienced handlers, yet Ethan moves through it with remarkable composure. When it's over, the evaluation team huddles together, speaking in low voices while Ethan, Patricia, and Natalie wait with held breath. Finally, Commander Pierce approaches. "Mr. Sullivan," he begins, his tone serious but no longer harsh. "What you've demonstrated today is extraordinary. These dogs are in exceptional condition, their training is intact, and your handling capabilities exceed those of some officers I have on active duty." Ethan's eyes widen with hope, but Pierce holds up a hand. However, this situation remains highly irregular. A 10-year-old civilian maintaining 4 tactical K9s without department oversight presents significant liability concerns. Natalie steps forward, ready to argue, but Pierce continues. "Which is why I'm proposing a compromise. The dogs will remain with you, officially retired to your care through proper channels. But you'll be enrolled in our Junior K9 Handler program, receiving formal training and certification. You'll have monthly evaluations, and Officer Adams here has agreed to serve as your supervising officer, conducting weekly check-ins." He looks at Natalie, who nods firmly, having discussed this possibility with Pierce privately the night before. "Additionally," Pierce continues, "the department will provide food, medical care, and equipment for the dogs, acknowledging their years of service. In exchange, you'll occasionally bring them to schools and community events for K9 demonstrations, helping educate the public about working dogs." Tears stream down Patricia's face. Ethan looks stunned, unable to speak. "Does this arrangement sound acceptable?" Pierce asks. Ethan finds his voice thick with emotion. "Yes, sir. Thank you, sir." Pierce's expression softens completely now. "Your mother was one of the finest officers I ever had the privilege of knowing. She spoke about you constantly, about how proud she was of you. I think she'd be proud of this too. You've honored her memory in a way that goes beyond anything we could have expected." He extends his hand, and Ethan shakes it, the gesture signifying not just agreement but respect between equals. The weeks that follow bring transformation to Harrisville. Ethan's story spreads through the community, and the morning walks that once drew puzzled stares now receive waves and smiles. Neighbors who once kept their distance now stop to chat, to express their admiration, to share their own stories of loss and healing. Natalie keeps her promise, visiting weekly, not just to check on the dogs but to mentor Ethan, to be the supportive presence he needs as he navigates adolescence with such unusual responsibilities. They work together on training exercises, and she teaches him things his mother never had the chance to: defensive tactics, safety protocols, emergency procedures. The Junior K9 Handler program becomes a source of pride for Ethan. He attends classes with other young people interested in working with dogs, and, for the first time since his mother's death, he forms friendships with peers who understand his passion and respect his dedication. On a Sunday morning, 6 months after the evaluation, Natalie joins Ethan for his morning walk. The dogs move in their familiar formation, but there's a new ease to the routine now, a sense of security that comes from knowing they're protected, recognized, valued. "Officer Adams," Ethan says as they walk, "I've been thinking about the future." "Oh, yeah? What about it?" I want to be a K-9 officer, like my mom. I want to train dogs, work with them, give them purpose and respect. I want to make sure that what happened to Rex, Atlas, Shadow, and Thor, the fear that they'd be thrown away after their service, I want to make sure that never happens to another working dog. Natalie smiles, her heart swelling with pride. Your mother would love that, and you know what? I think you're going to be extraordinary at it. They walk in comfortable silence for a moment before Ethan speaks again, his voice quieter now. Do you think she knows? Do you think Mom can see what happened? That the dogs are okay? That I kept my promise to her? Natalie looks at the 4 magnificent animals walking with such dignity and purpose, then at the remarkable young man beside her who has transformed grief into grace, loss into legacy. I think she knows, Natalie says softly. I think every morning when you walk these dogs, when you care for them and honor them, she sees it. And I think she's so incredibly proud of you. Ethan nods, blinking back tears, and they continue their walk through Harrisville's awakening streets. The sun climbs higher, casting golden light over the neighborhood, and in that light, a boy, an officer, and 4 German shepherds move forward together, proof that love survives beyond loss, that loyalty transcends death, and that sometimes the most extraordinary legacies are built not from grand gestures, but from the daily, devoted acts of caring for those who cannot care for themselves. The neighbors still watch, but now they understand. Now they know the truth, and what once puzzled them now inspires them, a reminder that heroes come in all forms, that responsibility can be embraced at any age, and that the bonds between humans and the animals who serve beside them are among the most sacred connections we can ever know. Ethan Sullivan walks his 4 German shepherds through Harrisville every morning, just as he always has. But now he walks not in secrecy but in celebration, not in fear but in hope, carrying forward his mother's legacy one step, one day, one act of love at a time. And in doing so, he has become exactly what his mother always believed he could be. Someone who makes the world better simply by being in it. Someone who understands that true service means showing up day after day. For those who depend on you, no matter how difficult the task or how heavy the burden. The story of the boy and his 4 dogs is no longer a mystery. It's an inspiration, a testament to the power of love, the importance of loyalty, and the extraordinary things that happen when we refuse to let go of what matters most, even when the world tells us we should.